I've always been really into music, rock and roll, and in fact, I don't know anyone who knows more about rock and roll and the history of rock and roll than I do. So my talk today, and my talk about body language, is sort of specifically about that. All these concepts, all the things that I'm going to be talking about today come from my study of rock and roll. And the reason why that is because when I started thinking about body language, when I started realizing, I mentioned earlier, that 90% of communication is body language, I thought, that's really interesting. That means that everything that comes out of my mouth when I'm talking to someone doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't. I started thinking, well, what really matters is the way that I move my body, the expression on my face, the way my eyes make eye contact with someone, what that says about who I am. Then I need to look at the people who are the best at that in the world. I need to look at the people who can seduce thousands or millions of people by the way they move their body. So I thought that rock and roll would be the best way to do that. So I looked at people that sort of, artists that had that sort of sexual presence, which I'll get into in a second. I looked at guys like Mick Jagger, right? Guys like Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, Michael Jackson, as interesting as that is. I looked at all these people and sort of tried to find out exactly what it was about them that was seducing the crowd. How did their movements translate into attraction? What was it? And not only did I look at rock stars and rock and roll, I started looking at people that were in sort of what I consider to be the best seducers of all time. And I'm not just talking about people in music or in film. Of course, I did look at them. Marlon Brando, James Dean, Warren Beatty, Errol Flynn. All these guys who I felt epitomized the essence of what not just good body language is, but sexuality. I looked at people that go back thousands of years. Cleopatra, Don Juan. He's not thousands, but a couple hundred years ago. And then closer to now, looking at guys like Rudolph Valentino. All these people that sort of were known in their time as the great seducers. What the fuck did they do? How did they do that? What was it about them that made them so attractive? These are the questions I always had in my head and that I wanted to figure out. So this talk today is about that. It's about who I studied and what I found out. So going back to rock and roll, I mentioned that I looked at these people with a huge sexual presence on stage. Like I mentioned earlier, Mick Jagger. And I started realizing a lot of their sort of sexual presence came off in the way that they move, in terms of their dancing mostly. So Mick Jagger has all these moves and shit, but I can't go into the club and dance like Mick Jagger and expect to attract women, even though I do. Yeah. So I kind of went through a whole bunch of these artists and looking for things that I could emulate, looking for things, little things, I still do it today. I'm always sort of searching for little things. Just to give you an example of how obsessed with this I am, I was actually watching Billy Joel videos the other day, and my buddy Mish was making fun of me. He's like, "Derek, why are you watching Billy Joel music videos? Music's kind of gay." And I wasn't listening to the music. I didn't care about the music. What I was looking at the expression on his face when he emphasizes certain lyrics, the way that he looks at the crowd, the way he enunciates words, the way that he moves his body as he says them. These are all things that are really interesting to me, because these are all things that, from a level where I'm coming from, I can almost understand what they're doing. I'll give you an example of this. So, artists know that they're being watched by thousands and maybe sometimes millions of people. They know. And they know that any sort of thing that they do, a movement, is almost exaggerated 1,000 times because they have all these cameras and they have all these people watching them. It explodes. If you ever look at, the best example of this is, I think it's 1985, the 25th anniversary Motown Awards, where Michael Jackson, for the first time, appears as a solo artist. He was already kind of known as in the Jackson 5, but it was the first time that he was on TV as a solo artist. It was the first time that, it was sort of the birth of Michael Jackson in a lot of ways. At least the 80s version of him, not sort of he died recently, so I'm not going to badmouth him, but I saw that video, and these people that don't even know who he is really, I mean, they know who he is because he was in the Jackson 5. It was the first time he came and appeared as an adult, as someone who had a sexual presence. He's doing things with his body that was literally making women almost have orgasms in the crowd. It's insane. You can watch the video, and I encourage you to do it. You can hear women swooning. They all stand up, and they're moving their body, and they're crying and stuff in a time when he wasn't even a legend. He wasn't even legendary then. I mean, he was from the Jackson 5 a little bit, but not in a sexual way. Not in a way that he ended up becoming. He had all these moves and stuff that apparently he improvised on the spot, which is pretty astounding to say the least. But, and I started wondering, you know, what is it about that? How did he do that? How did he make those women swoon when they didn't really know even who he was in a lot of ways? But like I said, I can't dance like Michael Jackson. I couldn't do that. This isn't something that I could replicate. But the one guy that I did find, I started researching, who blew me away. I really liked his music when I was a younger kid, but I didn't actually have the, as we call the pickup simulator, or the matrix that I could see that I can do now. And when I look back at his stuff, you know, a couple of years ago it blew me away. And the reason why is because, and I'll tell you who this is in a second, but the reason why he blew me away was because he didn't do much on stage. He basically stood still. Yet he was known as one of the biggest sexual icons in his time. How the fuck did he do that? The guy's Jim Morrison from The Doors. I started reading about Jim Morrison, and I started realizing that everything that he did was deliberate. And the reason I know this is because I read that when he first started, I read a lot of books about him, and I found out that when he first started performing for The Doors, he'd actually perform with his back to the audience because he had such bad stage fright. So what does that tell me? That tells me that when I see the performance of him on the Ed Sullivan Show, every single thing that he's doing, every single thing, the look in his eyes, this pursed lips, the way that he's standing, all of that is deliberate. He learned that. That's not natural. He wasn't a natural. He learned all that behavior. How the fuck did he learn that? What did he do? Where did he get that? So I found out that he read a lot of books. He was sort of into this stuff just as much as I am, or the other instructors. The way he stood still, simply the way that he stood on stage, he modeled after the way that Greek statues were carved in stone or marble. And I'll give you an example of what that is. So he stood like this, put his weight in his back foot, he put his body at a 45-degree angle, he lifted his head up. If you ever see Jim Morrison sing, this is how he sings. He sings like this. Tilts his head up, glazes his eyes, right? Holy shit, what the hell did the Greeks know, right? Michelangelo is the classic example of this. You can look up. But look up any sort of Greek statue, any hero, you know, the gods. They're all carved the exact same way. They're all standing the exact same way. What the fuck? Where did that come from? So I started, like I said, I started studying him. I started looking at every single thing that he did. The look in his eyes, the breaths he would take between words, the little things the way that he moved his shoulders, his languid movements. They all had a reason. The first thing I realized when I started studying this was that every movement you do has to be deliberate. There has to be a reason as to why you're doing it. When you think about movement, every movement we make has a purpose. It tells something, right? As Versetti was saying earlier, your body language is, what was it, V? Body language is fuck, it was really good. I made a point to remember it, but now I can't remember it anymore. Is basically body language, it like tells people what you're really thinking.
Oh, the betrayal of words.
Betrayal of words,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Body language is the betrayal of words. So even movement that is not deliberate, you're still communicating something. Okay? This is why any movement, when you think about it, that you don't do on purpose, usually says something bad about you. Twiddling your thumbs, you know, rocking your, you know, being uncomfortable, you know, touching yourself, uncontrollably scratching your head, things like this. This all give off the vibe that you're self-conscious. Versetti gave some great examples of it earlier. So the first thing that I learned was every movement you make has to be deliberate. There has to be a reason for it. Now, in order to do this, you have to become conscious of every single thing you're doing. It's actually, there's a reason I call this advanced body language. And the reason is because it takes a lot of mental sort of power to be constantly critiquing every single movement and being conscious of every single movement you're making. but I tried to start doing it. So I did. That was the first thing I learned. Every single movement has to be deliberate. Think about it. Why are you doing the thing that you're doing? The second thing that I realized that he did, and it wasn't just Jim Morrison either, like I said, there's a lot of people that I got a lot of things from, but these are sort of the amalgamation of all that. The second thing was poeticizing your presence. What that means is believing that you're actually a spectacle to be witnessed. That every movement you do, like I said, has a reason, but not just the reason for why you did it. There's a grander reason that you're not necessarily communicating. Something that hints at greatness, something that hints at who is this person and why is he making that movement the way that he is. Poeticizing your presence. Slowing movement down. I always like to say that move as if you're moving underwater. Not in the sense that you're moving like you're actually underwater, obviously, but the speed at which you move, the resistance that water would create. That should be your movement, your speed. There's, in terms of poeticizing your presence, just to give you an example, when you poeticize it, you can actually embed meaning into everything, every single thing that you do. I mean everything. And the interesting thing about this, I'm going to explain this a little bit more when I talk about subtext later. The interesting thing about this is that women are very, 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 very in tune with this sort of thing. So that when you create extra meaning with movement, they pick up on it in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And I'll give you guys an example of something that you can do. I'm just going to steal this chair if that's all right. I'm going to put it over here. All right. So let's take a movement that we've all done thousands, or if you're me, millions of times. It's taking a drink, right? So normally, can everyone see me? If you can't see me, just stand up. Normally, when you take a drink of your beer, let's say, you know, I'm going to use this table. Let's say that you're talking to a girl, and you're just going to take a drink, right? So normally you're having a conversation, blah, 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 and you take a drink of your beer, something you've done many times. You don't really think about it too much, right? It's like brushing your teeth or scratching your head. It's just something you just do that you don't really think about anymore. So yeah, Yeah, so anyway, and I told her, I was like, you know, it doesn't matter how you cook it, it's still a raccoon. Anyway, it's, now that actually, yeah, just forget that line. There was no extra meaning involved in the way that I took that drink, right? But if you slow it down and you call attention to it, you almost make it seem like you're doing something. But you don't really communicate what you're doing. You just take it slow and make it seem like what you're doing is this grand gesture. Then you can actually embed it with meaning. And the meaning is subtext, which I'll get into later, like I said. But so, for instance, if I'm talking to a girl again, yeah, well, I should put it back down. I'm going to open it too, so I'll do it. All right. Yeah. So anyway, what, you're a nurse? Anyway, doesn't matter. The whole point is, when you slow it down and call attention to it, she's going to start thinking, what is he doing? But she's maybe give you a little inquisitory look. Why? Is he doing something? Is he going to say something? Why is he doing that? Then you don't do anything. You just continue the conversation. And all that says is that you just had a communication there that you didn't need to verbalize. There was something there. When you can do that, I mean, this is how women communicate when you think about it, right? You ever see two really good friends, like two women that are really, really good friends communicate? They don't actually say too much to each other. I mean, they talk a lot, but really it's not about what the words that are saying. It's about what the meaning of what they said is and what was not said. So, for instance, they may say, you know, how'd your date with Tony go last night? And then her friend would be like, she'll give a look. And in that look, she communicated to her, you know, not that it went bad, but maybe a very specific thing that went bad, you know? They can communicate so much more with the way that they sort of not say things, subtext. So that was poeticizing your presence. Be conscious of your movement. Slow things down. Draw attention to yourself. Act as if you're, like I said, you're a spectacle to be witnessed. Now, there's other ways you can do this. In terms of sexualized movement. Things that, this is sort of the thing that I got, not just from rock stars and stuff, but just alpha males, naturals. They all sort of do the same things, whether they're conscious of it or not. There's a whole bunch of them. So one of them, like I said, slowing movement down. Being relaxed, totally relaxed. Look at, you know, taking up room, for instance, like guys that sit in a chair like this. Okay, so the feet maybe or their legs are close together. Like, what does that really say about someone if they're really closed up like this? You guys can see me. You know, he's got what? He's got something stuck up his ass, or he's not very comfortable with himself, right? What about guys that are like this? It's better, right? Maybe more confident. So what is this? What is this saying? When I relax my movement, I open up my body language. On a psychological level, what I'm saying is, and this goes back to tribal culture, in terms of, you know, when men lived in sort of 50-person tribes, I'm basically saying I'm open to attack. I'm basically saying, if anyone wants to come and spear me or something, go ahead. Because I'm so confident that I got 50 guys, or you know, all my tribe is going to back me up. You can go ahead and try to do that. And I'm going to communicate that to you by being completely open with my body language. Right? I'm going to take up as much room as I can. Because fuck it. I'm important. Acting, having this sort of communication, or this sort of feel about yourself, this sort of presence that you do not want or need anything. You're completely, you know, you're fine. You're self-satisfied. You don't want or need anything. So, you know, you don't lean into a girl. You don't struggle to hear what she said necessarily. It's all about she has to chase you is the idea. You don't need anything from her. You don't want anything from her. You're fine. That's a big thing. Some other things you can do in terms of physical things with your body. These are things that I specifically got from Jim Morrison, but he stole them from other people. Relax your eyes, glaze your eyes. Have a bit of a smile. Purse your lips, as if you're just, you know, when you're supposed to kiss someone. Your lips are a little bit protruded. Don't like do that, but you know, just relax your lips, relax your eyelids. You got that from Marilyn Monroe. You ever look at Marilyn Monroe, pictures of Marilyn Monroe? Her eyes are always like this glaze, look at the slits. You ever see a picture of Marilyn Monroe when she didn't know she was getting a picture taken of her? She looks completely different. Look it up, it's interesting. When she knew she was getting a picture taken of her, she did these things on purpose. She'd relax her eyes, tilt her head up, purse her lips, right? These are all things that emphasize her sexuality. It works for boys and girls, men and women. Doesn't matter. Adding in deliberate pauses to things. Again, this goes back to what I said earlier about the poeticizing your presence. Adding in a deliberate pause adds extra meaning to things. So, if a girl asks you a question, before you answer, pause, as if she just asked you the dirtiest question in the world. Right? So, what do you do for a living? I'm a writer. Right? Add a little pause there. It's sort of saying, I understand what's going on here, but I'll play along, because it's fun. The look I always say to give is, give a look like you get a joke that they don't get. That's the look. Give them a look like you get a joke that they don't get. Like imagine there's a giant dog turd stuck on the side of their face. They don't realize it. That's what I used to think about when I talk to girls. That'd be the way that I try to get in this sort of this mood. It's like they get a big dog turd, and this actually is funny because whenever they're like mean to you and stuff, or they're trying to, you know, blow you out or test you. Why are you talking to me? Oh, I just thought you were really cute. You know, or whatever. But so you try to say it in a way almost like you can, like, oh my God, you have a big dog turd stuck in your face. How can you even talk to me seriously? You know, that's sort of the idea. Adding in, like I said, adding in deliberate pauses and acting like you get a joke that they don't get. The look on your face should be an inquisitory look of mild arousal. So you're looking at her as if, you know, you're attracted to her. Like the idea, like I said earlier, the you get a joke that she doesn't get look, you know what the joke is? The joke is that she's attracted to you. That's the joke. And that's what, you know, that's the joke she doesn't get. Because she doesn't know it yet, maybe. Right? So, an inquisitory look of mild arousal. Study her lips. Look back up at her face. You're basically communicating one thing, but what's coming out of your mouth is communicating something else. But it doesn't matter what's coming out of your mouth, because she's reading into your body language. She's reading into how you're looking at her, and what the subtext is saying. Pushing physical boundaries. We talked about this earlier in, Rosetti mentioned it a little bit, and then 5.0 pretty much did a whole presentation on it. But there's a certain value in pushing the physical boundaries in terms of escalating, like 5.0 was talking about, in ways of touching, and calling attention to it. It's like they say that, I can't remember the exact quote, so I'm going to butcher it. But they say the most confident man, the true hero, you know, the ballsiest guy, knows exactly how dangerous the situation he's walking into is, and then walks into it willingly. Right? And that's sort of the idea. You know what you're doing is, well, trouble maybe, right? Pushing those physical boundaries. Touching a girl in a way that says, I really like you. You know you can get called out on that. But you do it in a way that says, I'm 100% not scared to do this. I'm going to do it anyway. And you do it. And you keep that look on your face, that confidence. Pushing the physical boundaries. I mentioned earlier this stance, right? The Jim Morrison stance, what you got from Greek statues. You guys notice anything about this stance that stands out in particular? In terms of not necessarily the emotions coming through, but necessarily what exactly that I'm doing? Just call out things if you guys notice it. What am I doing?
Leaning backwards.
Leaning backwards, yeah. What else?
Open chest.
Open chest.
Giving yourself depth.
Depth. That's the important one. So how am I giving myself depth?
By having a foot behind the other, so you
Foot behind the other? But how else? More upwards.
You're not directly facing the person you're
Exactly. What angle am I at?
45.
45-degree angle, exactly. I'm at a 45-degree angle. 45-degree angles, photographers know this, filmmakers know this, sculptors know this. A 45-degree angle calls attention to yourself. You're saying, I'm meant to be glanced at. I'm meant to be desired or gazed upon. Right? So when you put yourself at a 45-degree angle, and the interesting thing about this, actually, Jim was telling me, Mr. M, that Braddock does this a lot when he's pushing these physical boundaries. He'll come in real close, but he'll come in at 45-degree angles, and then fall back a little bit. And I thought that was very clever that he just did this instinctively, because it's actually almost it's something that I read about and sort of studied, and the fact that he did it instinctively I thought was very clever. But essentially what it is you're putting yourself out as a spectacle. You're putting yourself out as someone who's meant to be gazed upon. And when you do that and you call attention to yourself, it almost creates this sort of subcommunication of, I'm someone who is often gazed upon. I'm someone who women gaze upon. And I'm presenting myself as that. And I'm presenting myself as that to you. Because I want you to gaze upon me like that. So, the cool thing about this stuff, and this is just rounding up the sort of sexual presence. There's 3 topics I'm going to get into, but this is sort of the end of the first one. The interesting thing about this is when you start doing this stuff, and I encourage you guys to go out and practice this, obviously, like everything else that you guys have heard presentations on today. When you start doing this, the cool thing about this is that you can actually see the effect it has in the women's eyes. When you look at their eyes and you're doing all these things, you can almost see the way that they're critiquing you and understanding what you're doing. And the cool thing about it is that women recognize game. They know good game. And they may even call you on it. In fact, I think it was Jim that was telling me, Mr. M was telling me, how, I can't remember who did it, but there's several times, several situations, this happened to me too, where I've been doing these sorts of things, and women call me on it, and then tell me to keep doing it. So like, I like how you did that. Keep doing that. That's good, you know. And the idea here is that women know what attracts them instinctively. They just sort of know. And when you can sort of hit off on these little, you know, these checks in the women's heads, they actually respect you for it, for understanding that and knowing what you're doing. It's interesting. So, like I said, you can see the results in their eyes when this happens. It's very interesting. So, when I started learning this stuff, like I said, the sexual presence, I started practicing it when I was out in the bars and the clubs, and even in the daytime in some cases. I started noticing that with this, all these new powers, oh, thanks, buddy. All these new sort of, you know, powers, it was great. I was getting a lot of attraction, but it was actually creating a few more problems in terms of I was getting naturals like the really good naturals, started noticing this, especially when I was trying to take the girls. So I was getting a lot more, as we call them, AMOGs, you know, alpha male groups. So I was getting a lot more heat from them, as well as getting a lot more heat from very confident women. Women that sort of recognized, like I said earlier, that recognized what I was doing and kind of being like, does he know what he's doing? Or is he just acting? And if he is, I'm going to find out right now. And the way they do that is by giving you a shitload of tests, hard tests. And they want to see, are you actually this confident guy? Or are you someone who's faking it? Who looked at Greek statues and was emulating it. So the next thing that I noticed, or the next quality that I noticed amongst naturals and rock stars, well, I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna say what it is right yet. I'm gonna give you guys an example of what this is. Everyone here know Led Zeppelin, the band? Yeah, enough of you? Great fucking band. John Bonham is the drummer for Led Zeppelin. He's widely considered to be the best drummer of all time. Critics and fans alike will say the same thing. He's the best drummer of all time. But when you start to ask why, the answer gets a little bit convoluted. I mean, when you think about the history of drumming, especially the type of drumming that John Bonham was doing with Led Zeppelin, this hard, sort of fast, aggressive drumming, Keith Moon came before him. Keith Moon could hit just as hard. In fact, Keith Moon's style was more influential. From The Who is Keith Moon. He was more influential. He hit harder. He was crazier with it. He, in fact, invented that style. So why isn't Keith Moon considered the greatest drummer of all time? For those of you who don't know who Keith Moon is, you guys ever seen The Muppet Show? You know Animal on The Muppet Show? Rah! Hits the drums, right? That Muppet or Animal is based on Keith Moon. It's true, he is. And that was sort of Keith Moon. He was that guy, right? He would fucking bash those drums. But the difference between Keith Moon and John Bonham is that John Bonham made it look easy. John Bonham had restraint. That's the second quality. Restraint. Yeah, Keith Moon is a fucking hell of a drummer. But anyone watching Keith Moon didn't think, holy fuck, I can do that. Because he made it look fucking hard. He was pushing like all of his energy into that shit. He was an animal, right? But not John Bonham. John Bonham would fucking slam those drums. But you never knew how good he was. I mean, he was amazing. Until he would give you a hint of what he was capable of. It'd only be a hint. It only happened for a second, and it didn't happen very often. You'd be listening to a song, and a beat would come up that just sounded fucking impossible. It didn't sound like it could even be done. He would do 4 different beats at the same time, and then all of a sudden connect them all into some, into a crescendo of the song that honestly didn't even make sense. It seemed impossible how he did it. And that's why John Bonham's the greatest drummer of all time, because he never showed his limits. Just when you think he was hitting it as hard as he possibly could, that he couldn't go any harder, he'd hit it harder. And then he'd hit it harder again, to the point where it just wouldn't make any sense anymore. That's why John Bonham is the greatest drummer of all time. He never showed his limits. And that's what restraint is in the context of seduction, is never showing your limits. Tackling the most complex problems with the simplest answer. and making it look easy. That's talent, guys. That's what talent is. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time because he made it look fucking easy. He made it seem like he wasn't even trying. This is true for anyone that has talent. So, I started thinking about this. Restraint, what is it? A lot of ways, it's being unreactive. It's being, like I said, handling the most complex problems with the easiest possible answer. I'll give you guys some examples of this. So, me and Jim had a conversation with this the other night, and the cool thing about Jim, Mr. M, is that he's very scientific, and he always has sort of the scientific reasoning behind social phenomenon. And I was telling him a story about how I have a basketball net in the back of my yard that I just shoot every day. I practice. I used to play basketball when I was in high school. And I found out the secret to being really good at basketball. And I suppose anyone that has played basketball before has probably had the same realizations. And what I did was we played this game, 21, I'm sure you've heard of it. You just got the first to 21 points. And no one can beat me. Nobody can beat me. And the reason why is because I practiced on my net enough times that I got it in enough times that I knew how to get a basketball in. Like, I just knew how to get it in. I didn't get it in every time, obviously, but I knew how to do it. I knew what it felt like. I knew how to move. I knew how to shoot it so that it went in. And when I sort of mastered that, I worked those muscles and got them comfortable, got them knowing exactly what to do. My body knew what to do, and after your body knows what to do, it's all a matter up to your mind whether it goes in or not. Right? It's the same way, and Jim mentioned this to me the other day, which I thought was really interesting. It's like Olympic athletes. They practice, their whole lives, the same thing over and over and over again. But when it comes down to it, when they're competing in the Olympics, it's not the movement of their muscles or the sequence of events of their arms and legs that makes them win gold. That's not what it is. Any sort of professional athlete will tell you the same thing. They know, like for instance, if you're shooting a basketball, they know if that basketball is going to go in before they even take the shot. They know. Most athletes will even say they know if the run they're going to do, say it's like a ski run, they know if they're going to get the gold before they even go off the tracks onto the hill. And the reason is because it has something to do with, it's all in your head, essentially. So the reason I said that no one beats me at 21 anymore is because the way that we play is if you get it, nothing but net, the swish is 3 points, which is the most points you can get. So every time that I started shooting, I'd associate that noise, that swish noise, with the act of me actually shooting the ball. So that it felt that every time the ball left my fingers, the swish noise is what was supposed to come after it. And I started associating shooting the ball with that noise, and kind of connected the two together. And so that every time, it's essentially what it is visualization. I visualize the ball going in every time. Visualization is huge. I'm going to get into it a bit later on when I talk about my third thing. But I started associating that. I'll give you guys another example. We play this game in my house. I just moved into this house in Vancouver. It's like a big house. It has like 8 guys that live there. And we play this game where we have candy. We take M&Ms, and we throw it and get in each other's mouths from far away. So like, bam, get it. And at first we really sucked. We hit each other in the eye and shit, and teeth, and like, cut our lips and stuff. Especially with almond M&Ms. That's advanced shit. Don't do that. But we kept hitting ourselves in the face. We weren't really good at it. But then we found out the secret to it, and the secret was the same thing as basketball. If you start thinking about, all right, I'm going to get it in, and you think, okay, and you try to get it in, most of the time you're going to miss, right? You have to practice that and understand how to, the weight of it and how to throw it so that it gets near your target zone. But once you do that, it's not about doing that anymore. All it's about is just expecting it to go in. And this is funny because we play this game now in our house, And if you come over, it actually amazes people that we're capable of doing this. And they think we practiced for years, when really we've only been doing it for a couple weeks. We'll go from across the room, and I'll be like, Mitch, bam! Not even looking at it, and he'll get it every time. He'll do the same thing to me. Poof, under the leg, bam! And the idea is, we just know the person is going to get it when we do it, and we expect them to get it. And they expect the same thing. They expect that they're going to get it. And they get it. They get it every time. It's fucked up. I don't understand how it works. It's like, it breaks physics. It's messed up. And you guys, hockey is a really good example of this. I don't know if you have any hockey fans here. I'm Canadian, yeah? I'm Canadian, the Olympics are going on right now, so I've been thinking about how to incorporate hockey into my speech. But essentially, when you watch hockey, the reason why I love hockey so much is because you see these really, really, really amazing plays. These plays that literally make no sense in terms of how they would have happened. You'll see a quick pass to the puck, and the guy just kind of blindly hits it. And you see replays where it goes through 5 different guys, like under the arm, like through the legs, and like in between a tiny hole as big as the puck itself, right into the net. It's like, how the hell did he aim that? He didn't even have time to aim it. He just flicked it and it went right in. And they do this all the time. It happens over and over and over again. And almost in some situations, it looks like it goes through the goalie. And it's just like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. And the reason being is because they practice so much. Hockey players practice so much. They practice all these trick shots and shit. So that in the situations where a perfect play happens, where the puck, there's 3 players that pass in sequence, they know the play, and they know the play went really well. By the time it gets to the guy, they already know it's going in. It doesn't matter what is in the way of that puck, it's going in. The puck will find a way to go in. It's messed up. I don't know how it works. It's a fucking a mystery of reality that I don't understand, really. But it all has to do with beliefs. It all has to do with visualization. So, one of the big things that, sort of to get back to restraint, I kind of took a tangent there, sorry. To get back to restraint, one of the biggest ways that I learned about body language was watching animals. I worked in a zoo for 4 years, and as an employee of the zoo that I worked at, we had to study videos about what to do if we called them code heavyweights. They were the animals that if they escaped could kill humans. Most of these were the cats, the big cats, the lions, the tigers, the cougars, right? So we had to watch videos of how to use body language to corral the cats. And the reason being was because if a cat ever escaped, a big cat, it's going to take time for them to hop on the gators, as we call them, which was these 4-wheel drive vehicles, and go and get the trank gun in order to trank it. There's going to be some time there, maybe only a couple minutes, but still, a lion could kill a lot of people in 2 minutes. So we had to learn how to use our body language to corral the cat into a certain area away from people. Very, very interesting videos. And the reasoning, well, I said the reasoning. In fact, it's kind of funny now thinking, because if the fucking lion escaped, the last thing I'm going to do is walk up to it, try to, come here, go over here. But we did learn this body language. And the interesting thing about cat body language and the way that it relates to not just other animals, but humans themselves, is that it's kind of universal when you get down to the principles of how it works. So when you think about male lions, you always see male lions in documentaries and videos and stuff, they're always laying around. It's like they don't do anything. They just lay around under trees all day and sleep, right? Well, it's because a male lion's only role in its pride is to protect the pride from other male lions. That's it. That's all the work they do. It's the only thing they need to do. The female lions do almost all the hunting, all the rearing of the young, all the work. It's the female's job. The male lion's job is to protect the other lions from other males. That's a really important job. So what happens then when 2 male lions encroach on each other's territory? In any situation with 2 male lions, there's always going to be an alpha lion and a beta lion, right? There's always going to be one that's more alpha than the other. So when you have 2 male lions that encroach on each other's territory, this is what usually happens. The beta lion is going to try to elicit a reaction out of the alpha lion. He's going to roar. He's going to do false starts. He's going to show his teeth in profile. The alpha lion is going to just lay down. He's going to adopt a position the least sort of threatening and the least reactionary, sort of the most unreactive position. He's going to lie down and you pay attention to him. If the beta lion, by roaring or doing any aggressive action, elicits an aggressive reaction out of the alpha male, so he roars and he roars back, or he gets up and does another false start towards him, they'll fight every single time. They'll fight. But that's not usually what happens. What usually happens is, unless the beta lion has strength in numbers, he ends up walking away, slinking away. He lost. Most of the time there isn't a fight. Like I said, unless there's strength in numbers. It's really interesting, isn't it? The exact same thing happens with humans, with males, with guys, and women too, to a certain extent. And you guys have all probably been in this situation. A guy, you ever notice, before two guys fight, there's always that situation that happens before where they're trying to elicit a reaction out of each other? Oh, what's up, man? You want to fight? Huh? Want to step outside? You fag? Right? And the other guy's like, fuck you, man, you're a fag. Let's go outside. Yeah, let's go, let's do it. And they fight, right? There's an equal reaction on both sides. Essentially what it is you need to see the other person's hand. If you think of like poker, it's like, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you. Oh yeah, you're going to beat me? Look what I got. Yeah, look what I got. Oh, we're going to fight now. Because I know who's going to win, right? But it's a lot harder to do that if the other person doesn't show his hand. Oh, fuck. Well, I think I got a good hand. But he's acting pretty confident. He's not showing his hand. And this is what it is. This is the restraint aspect of it. It's your ability to withhold. So, there's actually a really good video of this. I don't have time to show it because it's kind of long. But if you look up on YouTube, man versus lion, some of you may have already seen this. It's amazing. There's actually a guy, a human, that goes out into the savannas of Africa and approaches male lions with no weapons. Actually, he holds a roll of toilet paper, which I suppose is if he shits himself. He goes out to these male lions and actually using his body language out-alphas male lions. It's fucked up. Seriously, I don't even know how you practice that shit. But look this up. Go to YouTube, man versus lion. It's about 10 minutes long, which is why I'm not showing it today. But watch it. It's insane. The guy has studied cats for so long that he intimately knows what every little muscle movement in their body means and how to react to it in a way that says he's more alpha than they are. Very, very, very interesting. And you guys that are scared to approach women, this guy's approaching lions. You don't have an excuse anymore, do you, after seeing that? So watch it. It's a video that it blew my mind. It's actually funny. I got a cat, and his name's Rod Stewart, because I purposely named him a really dumb name because I hated him. I wanted to make fun of him. So, but anyway, I needed a cat. I never had cats before, up until when I got him 2 years ago. I was always a dog guy, and I was always really good with dogs. My dad is he's really alpha. I grew up in a family of really alpha men. And my father's really alpha, and he was always really good at training dogs. Because with dogs, it's all about showing dogs you're the leader of the pack. They're the bottom one, right? They're on the bottom rung of the ladder. So with dogs, I was always naturally very good at dogs. I could always make dogs listen to me and not fuck with me. In fact, the first time my dog bit me, I bit him back, and I got a mouthful of hair, and he yelped and never bit me again. Anyway, but I got this cat. When I was at the SPCA, I said, I need the most aggressive cat you have. And the reason why is because I lived in a place in Toronto that had a lot of mice, and it's just an artist neighborhood that just ended up having a lot of mice. And so instead of spending all this money on mouse traps, I decided, well, fuck it, I'll get a cat. So I got a cat, and I wanted the most aggressive one. So I said, give me the biggest fucking bastard you have. He needs to like murder the shit out of mice. And so they're like, okay, well, we got this cat Jet. He's pitch black, and whenever we take him out of his cage, he hunts us and attacks us. And I'm like, that sounds perfect. And so I went over to him. They brought him into the cage. I held him, scratched his chin. He made this noise like an Ewok. Like, and so I was like, all right, you're kind of cute. I'm taking you home. So I took him home, and he's a fucking bastard. He's a shithead, an asshole. But it's almost redeeming. The reason being, he's a runt, and I guess that's why he was at the adoption place. He's a runt of the litter. So he has these sort of like small man syndrome. And he always tests other males. He's fine with girls. Girls come over, he's sweet as like cute as a button, and he'll purr. And the girls always are like, why do you hate him so much? He's so nice, he's so cute. And he like goes up to them and purrs, and is, you fucking, as soon as they walk away, he's fucking biting and scratching. But the cool thing about it, and the way that I've learned about how to use cats and how cats sort of respond to people, I initially thought that I had to treat them like dogs. Or like, you know, be physical with them. You know, like, no, think about the scruff of the neck and put them down. And yell at them and stuff like that. But that didn't work, because cats don't react to that. In fact, they hold grudges when you do that. And they wait till you're not looking and fucking, I won't even get into it. But they're evil bastards when it comes to that shit. So you can't do that. Cats react to body language. That's how they react. You can't use verbal commands. You can't really use physical force. They react to body language. So what happens is, Rod, because he's such an asshole, when other males come over, other guys, he'll test them. He'll always test them to see, mostly to brag about how alpha he is. And what he'll do is he'll creep on them. So usually I'll be sitting down and I'll see at the corner of my eye, his head will come up over the couch, his ears will peel back, and his eye, everyone who has cats knows this, his eyes, his pupils dilate and they get really big and black, and he looks like, you can tell he's having so much fun. He's like, oh fuck, I'm gonna attack someone. It's great, he loves it. And what happens is, he'll run at the person, the male. And any of my friends that come over, if they react in any way, if they flinch or like, ah, no, he'll fucking attack them and bite down. And he'll bite hard as he can. My friends hate my cat. And then he'll yell at him or like try to swat him away, and he'll like jump off the couch like, meow, and like purr and stuff and get really excited because he attacked someone and get away with it, and he'll run off. And yeah, my friends hate him. But the trick I learned with him is to never flinch. It's to never show any fear about what he's going to do. And it's really interesting because this is what he'll do. So I'll see him come up over the couch, like really excited eyes, like he's going to attack me. And I won't even look, and I'll just kind of notice him in the corner of my eyes when I'm sitting on the couch. And then he'll get up and he'll run up, and he'll run right up to me and put his mouth right on my arm and then look up at me. If I flinch at all, if I yell at him, if I move, he'll clamp down and he'll bite. But if I just kind of look at him like, go ahead, bite me, he won't. He'll close his mouth and slink away and be upset. It's what he needs. He needs me to show my hand. He needs to know that I'm scared of him, that there's fear there in order to follow through with that. It's the same way humans work. So I'm actually kind of glad that I got him now, because I can out-alpha him now. It just took me a while, but I finally learned. It's a good example of this in terms of if you're looking at on a human perspective of this. Before I tell this story, I just want you guys to know I'm kind of like overly confident, and it actually is bad in a lot of ways in that, and my boss, Savoy, always makes fun of me because I teach guys how to avoid fights when I get in so many fights. But the truth is I avoid a lot of fights too. And a good example of this, I was in Australia. I actually got in 3 fights when I was in Australia and ended up busting my eye socket and have a titanium plate in my head now, but I'm not telling that story. The interesting story when I was in Australia is the last sort of fight, it wasn't really a fight, that I got into. I was at this bar in this little town called Yambla, which is on the northeast coast of New South Wales in Australia. And I was there, and there was this woman there that was with her sort of like sometime boyfriend, the guy that visits every once in a while, but she hooks up with, I guess. And the guy was a big show, he's an idiot. And so I was talking to the girl, and we were having a good conversation, and I ended up being flirty with her, and she was flirty back, and so I emotionally progressed, physically escalated, and I ended up grabbing her ass at one point. And but it was a good grab. It was, she liked it. So anyway, but she was a bit older. She was, in her high 30s, maybe even early 40s. So she got really excited that a young, good-looking guy like me was aggressively flirting with her, and decided to brag about it a little bit to her chody, sometimes boyfriend. So she went and told him, that young guy, he just grabbed my ass, sort of like in a I'm trying to make you jealous type of way, right? Well, obviously this guy didn't like that very much, and he decided to, to call me on that. So I was kind of on the corner of the dance floor, and he came over to me. He was a British guy, actually. He was like, "Hi, mate, you having a good time?" I just kind of looked over and I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Hey, man, come here." And I was like, "No." and he's like, "Hey, man, listen." So he walked over. He's like, "Hey, man, listen. Don't fucking touch my girl again, all right?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, I said, don't touch my fucking girl again, all right? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I know you touched my girl, man. Don't fucking touch my girl, okay? And I was like, fuck you. And he's like, what, you want to go outside, man? You want to go outside? Let's go fucking outside. Let's do it. I was like, all right, come on, let's go. Let's go outside. Come on. And he's like, yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it. What, you want to fight? I'm fucking Manchester, man. Let's fucking go. Let's fight. Okay, come on, let's go. Fuck, man. You're going to get fucking messed up. All right, listen, buddy. I don't want to fight you, okay? Just calm down, all right? I'm having fun. I'm sorry I touched your girl. It's not a big deal. He's like, I'm going to buy you a drink, dude. But seriously. It's because the reason why that happened is because I wasn't ever showing my hand to him. I wasn't matching his aggression with my own. To him, even though I was smaller than him, he was this kind of British bulldog type guy. He needed me to get just as upset at him in order to validate his sort of aggression, in order to take it to the next level. When I didn't do that, he's thinking, why is this guy so confident? This doesn't make any sense. I can't realistically go out and do this when I don't know why he's so confident. Why the hell is he being this confident? It doesn't make any sense. And so, but like I said, please don't go out and practice this shit with guys, because there are crazy guys out there, and there are drunk guys out there that'll fucking knife you and kill you and shit. I'm mental, so don't do what I do. Just listen to what I say. I meant that as an example to illustrate how this stuff works, not that you should go out and try to do this. Avoid fights, please, whenever you can. Now, that sort of is a little braggy. I'll give you guys an example of me being on the receiving end of this, to humble myself a little bit. I was in Vegas, and there was a guy did the same thing actually, where I was touching a guy or a girl. Sorry, I was touching a girl. I was touching a girl, and I was talking to her. And she was the guy that was there was kind of right beside her, and I kind of figured maybe she was with him, but I didn't care. And so I did that, and he just kind of looked over and he said, "Hey man, don't touch my girl." And I was like, "Why?" And then he just looked at me and he was like, just didn't say anything, just stared at me. And then I was like, what is that stare for? What are you doing? And then he just got a little bit closer and just kept staring at me. And the guy was an older guy too, and he was shorter than me. And he didn't ever say anything. He just sort of looked at me right in the eye, locked eye contact, and it actually made me really scared. I actually thought he must be the owner of the club or something, because I was like, why is this guy so confident? And I actually got scared, and I was like, all right, man, yeah, you can have her. I'm gonna take off now. You're freaking me out. But it's the same idea. It's sort of him not putting up the aggression, basically taking my aggression and being like, yeah, I'll take that. Go ahead. Keep what else you got. And sort of me, and I was like, oh shit, I don't really have anything else. I don't know what your hand is, so I'm gonna bow down. Anyway, so in the context of seduction, in terms of when you're talking to a girl, how this applies. A lot of the time, like I said, if you have this sort of sexual presence, girls are going to test you a lot more. They're going to give you a lot more tests. The way they do this is by trying to sort of put a frame on you in a lot of ways. First, understand this. If a girl is still talking to you, it means you still have a chance. Okay? It means she's testing you. On a very basic level, women want a guy that won't put up with their bullshit. That's what they want, right? Because if you won't put up with her bullshit, and she decides to be with you, what does that say about the relationship that you guys are going to have? It means that if anyone ever tries to take advantage of you, if you're not willing to put up with her bullshit, it probably means, or I guess if you put up with her bullshit or not, yeah, anyway. It probably means that if anyone that tries to take advantage of you guys, you're gonna be scared of that too, and you're not gonna be able to stand up for yourself. So that's why they do it, because they want a strong guy. They want a strong guy because strong men get results. Strong men are successful. So this is why they do it. So understand, it's a lot easier for a girl that instead of saying something like, why are you talking to us? Is that your best line? It's a lot easier for them to do this. Turn their back to you or walk away. It's a lot easier. And they will. So when they give you that, when they say, why are you talking to us? Is that your best line? The reason they do that is they're giving you an opportunity. You're giving you an opportunity to show your strength. So take advantage of it. Whenever students tell me, oh man, that girl was really mean. Great, where is she? I love that shit. Because that gives you a perfect example to show your worth to her. The worst is when girls are indifferent. The worst is when you're talking to a girl and she's like, and she doesn't give you anything. Then it's like, ah, fuck, I don't even know where I am. But at least if she's giving you an opportunity to prove your strength, you can take advantage of that. And that's great. So, how do you do that? Like I said, the simplest, most subtle reactions are the best. So when a girl says, why are you talking to us? What's the worst thing you could do there? And think back what I've been talking about the past little bit in terms of restraint.
Try and justify yourself.
What's that?
Try and justify yourself.
Trying to justify yourself. Yeah, being reactionary, right? Reacting to it. What do you mean, why am I talking to you? All right, you just put yourself into the role that she wanted you to be in, and that's weak, and she's not going to like you anymore. You failed the test, right? So what do? Why are you talking to me? So there's a couple things you can do. First thing you can do, this isn't as solid, but I used to do this, but I don't do it anymore. The first thing to do is to challenge sort of her role she's putting on you. So for instance, some people have the confidence to say something aggressive, but rarely do they have the confidence to say it twice. So if they say, why are you talking to us? Excuse me? Okay. That may make it fizzle, right? She may be like, well, I don't know, you're just, why'd you come over and talk to us? It may make her a little bit like, okay, he kind of stood up to me a little bit there. Because when you say, excuse me, you're basically saying, this isn't something that happens to me very often. This isn't what you're supposed to say. Try again. But sometimes, but no, honestly, sometimes, when you get really confident women, they'll ante up. They'll ante up the aggression. So they'll say like, I said, why are you talking to us? Right? So the idea here is you want to reward resistance. So when she shows you that resistance, when she shows you that strength of character, that's what you wanted to get out of her. You want to reward her for that. So when she says, I said, why are you talking to us? I like you. You're kind of a bitch, but that's good. It means you stand up for yourself. I like you. We never get along though, because I wouldn't take your shit and you wouldn't take mine. So you kind of meet her at her own level. You say, I respect you for being as ballsy, as being as aggressive as you just were in terms of, trying to make me leave. And I like that, because that's how I am. I'm not willing to admit defeat, but I'm willing to admit that you're at the same level as I am. And I like you for that. A lot of time that'll smooth it over. The thing that I do now, I'm going to get into this a little bit more when I talk about subtext. The thing that I do now is I'll sort of imply that I know the game, that I know the game she's playing when she says that, and I'm better at it than she is. And that there is a hidden meaning to almost everything that I say. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So she says, so if she says, why are you talking to us? I'll react honestly something like, because I thought you were cute. And I'll sort of smirk. And it has something to do with what I said earlier, that I get a joke you don't get. The sort of go ahead and say what you're going to say. In fact, I dare you to say something even worse. Or in fact, I dare you to try to blow me out even more. Because it's not going to work. It's almost that having sort of complete confidence in your social mastery, which is something I've said more than once. You don't actually have to have that, obviously, but sort of understanding that any sort of situation that comes up, and a lot of time guys, they always ask me, and in fact a couple of you asked me already today, what do I do when I run out of shit to say? What do I do when I just don't know what to do next, when it's uncomfortable, when it's awkward? And the answer to that is smile. Smile, lean back, and have that look on your face, that shit-eating grin, right? The look that's, I get a joke that you don't get. Because the thing is, you only make people uncomfortable when you're uncomfortable. That's the thing. So when you're comfortable, when you're smiling, when you're leaning back, even if you have nothing to say, she's going to feel like it's now on her to keep the conversation going. She's going to feel like the onus is on her to say the next thing. Because you're comfortable. You don't want or need anything, right? So that's sort of the answer. It's the sort of, like I said earlier, the simplest, most subtlest reactions are the best. No, why are you talking to me? You're cute. I like you. You're funny, your nose wiggles when you talk. Sort of this aloof sort of, I'm not going to play this game with you. I'm not going to play this you know, why am I talking to you? Is that your best line? Yep. That's my best line. Did it work? Having that confidence. So that's restraint. That's restraint. The ability to withhold. To show that you are so strong, you are so secure, you are so confident, that you don't need to push in any energy into anything that you do. Because that little bit that you put in speaks volumes. That little bit tells her that you're used to giving off that little bit and that you're used to having it work. Therefore, you're someone, you're probably a guy she wants to talk to. You're a man of immense strength. Is there any other questions about restraint before I get into the last bit? Really? We got two. Yeah, we'll go here first, then we'll go to you.
The thing is, when you go like, you say you poetize your presence.
Poeticize your presence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not, you're giving the IOI to her. I mean, even if she didn't.
No.
For you.
No, you're not. You're not giving the IOI to her. You're the spectacle, right? Not her. And you're not doing it for her. You're doing it for you, or well, everybody, but not just her. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? The idea here isn't look at me, like I'm 45 degrees. I'm, you know, I'm a spectacle. The idea here is this is who I am. I'm someone that demands attention. If you don't want to give it to me, I don't give a shit. I'll go somewhere else, or I'm gonna do this to someone else. You're not doing it for her. You're just showing her that you were that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but how you can be essential without you totally detached from the output, like you're essential itself. Like,
sorry, you didn't hear that. How do you what?
I mean, how you can be essential without expecting any reaction.
Oh, well, you don't expect a reaction, but you'll get a reaction. Believe me. Go out and do this stuff. I always get my students. The last boot camp I did in Dublin. There's 3 guys, and they were all young guys. They were like 20 years old, and one of them was 21. And they were all sort of like, you know, they're good guys, they're funny guys, but they bounce around and stuff. And after I taught them all the body language stuff, I made a point because I wanted to practice this speech that I'm giving today, so I gave them this whole speech. And the results from I taught this on the Saturday, so the Friday night they were sort of themselves and they'd use the stuff that I'd given them so far, which was good. But then the difference between the Friday night and the Saturday night was monumental in terms of they were leaning back. Girls were talking to them. They were looking at them with this mild look of arousal. Their eyes were glazed. They were really comfortable. They were taking up all this room. And the reactions they were getting from women was insane. The women were hitting on them almost immediately. And they were wondering, you know, how could they be this confident? Why are they this confident? It's something that, like I said, it hits on a very, very basic level. It hits on a very basic biological level, these things. So you guys may have a lot of questions in terms of like, how do I do this? How did this work and stuff? Just go out and do it, like seriously. You'll see how it works. You'll see the reaction you get in their eyes and the way they're looking at you. That it's fucked up, to say the least. It's really good. And I mean, you know, all those rock stars knew what they were doing, obviously. And when you know that, and when you kind of do it yourself, you can see why. Anyway, is that good?
Yeah.
All right. What was your question?
Yeah, I was wondering when you said earlier, when you're dealing with sort of someone who's being bitchy with you, and you say, you know, I like you, you're kind of a bitch, but that's all right. Mm-hmm. Does that, rewarding that resistance, does that not blow up in your face? Are you kind of not giving them permission to be bitchier?
No, because what happens is you're kind of meeting her on her level, right? So when you say something like that, and that's actually a very ballsy line. I mean, calling a girl a bitch, it's not usually something I'd recommend. In fact, I'm still kind of not recommending it. It's only for the advanced guys. But sort of complimenting her is the idea. Complimenting her on her strength of character. That's the idea. So when I call a girl a bitch, it's not because I think she's a bitch. Like, calling her a bitch almost is a term of endearment. It's almost like saying, you're a bitch, but I like that. That's really cool because I'm an asshole. And you know, we're not going to really get along. But you know, you'd never take my shit, and I would never take yours. And honestly, the reaction you usually get from a line like that is, no, but that's good though. That's good. And they'll like that, and that's sort of the idea. Is you're sort of disqualifying yourself, but at the same time, you're basically proving to her that you're exactly the guy that she wants, because she wants the guy that, you know, that won't put up with her shit, that is strong, and it's not a disqualification, and they'll admit that. when they said, when they were mean to you earlier, it wasn't a disqualification, it was a test, and you passed it, so it's good. And that's sort of the idea.
I think it's also important to look at the way that Cajun delivered that.
Yeah.
Is truly important as well.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you can't go up to her and say, or not go up to her and say, but when she replies in that way, you can't say, you're kind of a bitch. Like, you can't make it seem like there's any aggression in your voice. It's got to be like a smirk, like there's, like, you get it almost, like, you know what, you're kind of a bitch, but I like that, that's good. I wouldn't take your shit and you wouldn't take mine. We'd have great makeup sex though. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, watching 5.0 style is very kind of high energy,
yeah.
And you're kind of very different. Is there a way, do you fuse those two elements?
Yeah, so here's the thing, I'm glad you mentioned that. Everything that I'm saying today, in the course of this presentation, I don't want you to go out and use all this stuff and try to be all this stuff, right? Because if you do, it's going to be weird. I'm going to get into this in a second when I talk about subtext and mystique. But just use a couple things. If it is your personality, if you are sort of, a low energy type of guy and a sensual type of guy, then maybe you can use a bit more of it. But if you're not, if you're kind of a high energy guy like 5.0, then you can use a few of these things, right? The eyes maybe, or maybe only using them in certain specific situations. Okay, so maybe when she makes a move on you, you drop the sort of the sort of comedian sort of type stuff, the funny type stuff, and then maybe go sensual a little bit and use some of the stuff that I've been talking about. Okay, or when a girl gives you a test, then that's going to be the time to use it. But like I said, this isn't something like, I don't want all you guys to go around. I don't want to see like 50 guys at the club tonight walking around like, like, oh shit. That's not really going to work. You have to take pieces of this and apply it, and take the pieces that you like, take the pieces that make sense to you, and use those. Good.
Back to the bit where you said, she says, why you talk to me, she's kind of giving you a stage for you to come back. So you have a time to say something back. But when she just has a body language, or she's aloof to you, just walks away, just nods her head, just.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, where it's a lot easier for a girl just to walk away.
Yeah, so
in those situations, there's not much you can do. I mean, if what I'm telling you doesn't work, then really nothing would have, is kind of the idea. Well, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, if a girl walks away, you can try plowing. I mean, you can try going after her and trying real hard. My buddy Alex does that a lot. But I mean, honestly, you're fighting an uphill battle at that point. So it's sometimes it's not really worth the energy. But it's up to you. But yeah. All right. Okay. One more. Go ahead.
Just with the idea of kind of remaining aloof, but still opening the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you sort of justify that?
There's always going to be a sort of when I say aloof, it's more like you don't want to seem like disinterested. It's not like you're trying to communicate you're disinterested in her. It's more like what's on your mind isn't the conversation you're having in terms of what you're talking about. What's on your mind is this a girl that I like? Is this a girl that I want to fuck? Is this a girl who has value to me? And if she gives any indication where she wants to play a game of, why are you talking to me? Or, give you a test and shit, that's where you're aloof. That's where you don't care. You're not willing to go past a certain point. You're not willing to invest a certain amount in order to have, to chase her. You're basically baiting her into chasing you. And if she's not willing to do that, that's when you act aloof. Good. All right.